Welcome to True Crime Stories for English Learners, where real-life mysteries meet clear and simple English.
The Dunbar Armored Robbery. It was late at night on September 12, 1997 in Los Angeles, California. Most of the city was quiet. The streets were empty. But inside the Dunbar Armored Facility, workers were counting money, stacking bills, and preparing armored trucks for the next morning. At 12:30 a.m., a security camera showed nothing unusual, just a few workers walking through the loading area. Everything seemed normal. But outside the building, hidden in the darkness, a group of men waited in silence. They wore black clothes, gloves, and masks. They carried heavy bags and tools. A white truck was parked nearby, engine off, lights off. At the front of the group stood Alan Pace III, a man who knew the building better than anyone. Earlier that day, he had walked inside the facility as an employee. Now he stood outside as the leader of a robbery team. What was about to happen would become the biggest cash robbery in U.S. history. The Dunbar Armored Facility held millions of dollars every night. Armored trucks brought money from banks, casinos, stores, businesses. The building had thick walls, steel doors, guards on duty, cameras everywhere. It was designed to be extremely safe. But there was a weakness, and that weakness was Alan Pace. Alan worked for Dunbar for years. He knew the camera positions, the blind spots, the shift schedules, the location of the vault, when large deliveries arrived, when guards moved through the hallways. He was friendly, quiet, and good at his job, so no one suspected him. But Alan had a secret plan. He quietly gathered information for months. He memorized the building. He took photos during his shift. He watched the guards. He took notes. By 1997, he had built the perfect plan for a robbery. He then recruited 5 old friends from his childhood neighborhood in Pasadena. They trusted him. They respected him. They believed he could pull it off. Together, they prepared for one of the smartest robberies ever committed. The key moment came when Alan discovered that a guard walked through the building at exactly 12:30 a.m. every night. He also knew that the cameras reset for a few seconds during that time. Those seconds created a blind spot, a moment when the cameras saw nothing. It was the perfect time to enter the building. On the night of September 12th, the team stood outside the back door, waiting for the exact second the camera shut off. Alan whispered, "Now." He used his employee key to open the door. The robbers entered silently. The first guard saw them too late. One robber tackled him and tied him with plastic restraints. The team moved quickly. Alan knew exactly where the second guard would be. They caught him and tied him as well. Within minutes, the guards were secured. The building was theirs. Entering the vault. Alan led the man down the hallway and through the loading area. He walked like he owned the place. Every step was part of the plan. The vault door was open because employees were sorting money inside. When the workers saw the masked men, they froze. The robbers tied them up but did not hurt anyone. They ordered them to lie on the floor. Then Alan walked into the vault. Inside were stacks of cash, piles and piles of it. Millions of dollars were sitting on metal carts, waiting to be sorted. The team immediately began loading money into large plastic barrels. They worked fast but carefully. Alan told them exactly which bags held large bills and which ones to avoid. In less than half an hour, they filled the barrels with $18.9 million. It was the largest amount of cash ever stolen in the United States without gunfire. The perfect exit. The robbers rolled the heavy barrels out of the vault and down the hallway. Alan guided them through the exact camera blind spots he had memorized. They pushed the barrels through the back door and loaded them into the white truck. Everything went smoothly. Before leaving, the robbers dragged the tied-up workers into a locked section of the building so they couldn't call for help too quickly. At 1:10 a.m., just 40 minutes after entering the building, the robbers drove away with almost $19 million, and no one outside the facility had any idea. Police wouldn't discover the robbery until hours later, and by that time, the men had vanished. The discovery. Early in the morning, Dunbar employees arrived for their shift. When they entered the building, they found workers tied up, guards missing, the vault open, money carts empty, millions of dollars gone. The police were called immediately. When LAPD and FBI agents arrived, they were shocked. Someone had stolen $18.9 million in cash, the biggest cash robbery in U.S. history. The strange thing was, nothing was broken. No doors, no locks, no alarms. The robbers took only certain bags, the ones with large bills. It looked like an inside job. Investigators watched the security tapes again and again, but they saw no robbers. Alan Pace had perfectly timed the camera resets. The cameras caught nothing. For weeks, the police had no leads. Then they made a discovery, a small one, but important. A single broken bill. Months passed. The robbers tried to stay quiet. Alan told everyone, "Do not spend the money. Not yet." They listened at first, but slowly the men began using the stolen cash. One man bought a car, another bought expensive items in cash, another made a risky real estate deal. One of the robbers gave a friend a stack of bills wrapped with a Dunbar tape band still attached. That friend used the money in a store. The store owner thought it was strange and called the police. The FBI got the bill and the tape band. It had a serial number that led directly back to the Dunbar facility. It was the first solid clue in the case. Investigators now knew someone was spending the stolen cash. They just didn't know who yet. The breakthrough came when one robber, a close friend of Alan's, made a strange real estate purchase. He paid for property using stolen $20 bills that were still crisp and new. The seller became suspicious and contacted the police. The bills were traced back to the Dunbar heist. The FBI looked deeper into the man's friends and connections. One name appeared again and again, Alan Pace III. And Alan had recently been fired from Dunbar. That made him the perfect suspect. The FBI began watching him closely. They followed him. They checked his phone records. They examined his bank accounts. Soon they found a storage locker connected to Alan. Inside it were money bands, empty cash bags, pieces of plastic barrels, and tools used during the robbery. It was enough to arrest him. The arrests. Alan Pace was arrested in 2001, 4 years after the robbery. One by one, the other 5 robbers were arrested too. At first, they tried to stay quiet, but when they learned the FBI had evidence from the storage locker, 3 of the men decided to talk. They confessed to the entire plan. Alan gave them inside information. Alan opened the door. Alan planned every detail. Alan knew where every camera blind spot was. Alan chose the perfect time of night. Alan tried to deny everything. He claimed the others were lying, but the evidence was too strong. In the end, all 6 men were convicted. Alan Pace, the leader, received a sentence of 24 years in federal prison. What happened to the money? Even after the arrests, the biggest mystery remained. Where was the money? Of the $18.9 million stolen, only about $5 million was recovered. The rest, nearly $14 million, was never found. Some was spent over the years, some was hidden, some was invested and mixed with clean money, and some may still be buried or locked away somewhere in California. Today, the Dunbar armored robbery is remembered as one of the smartest robberies ever planned, one of the biggest cash thefts in U.S. history, and a rare heist where almost no one got hurt. The story shows how intelligence, timing, and inside knowledge can create a perfect crime, but how small mistakes like a single piece of tape or a suspicious property deal can destroy everything. Even now, people still wonder, is some of the Dunbar money still out there?
Another dark chapter closed, but the mystery of human nature continues. Thanks for listening to True Crime Stories for English Learners. Don't forget to subscribe and join me next time for another real story that's stranger than fiction.